I'm working with carded wool fiber from Harrisville Designs. I'll be felting it with 2 different felting needles. The shaping needle is coarse and it works best as you're starting out building shapes. It's purple on the top. And the finishing needle is fine. It works best for smoothing and tightening the felt later on in your project. I'll indicate which needle I'm working with these symbols. Whichever needle I'm working with, I like to put it into a grip of dreams. This just makes the needle more comfortable to hold. If you don't have a grip, it's perfectly fine. You can felt with just the bare needle. This penguin took about 7 grams of fiber. If you don't have a scale or one of my kits where the fiber is pre-measured, you want to roll up a ball that's about the size of a regular chicken egg. When I fluff out my fiber, it's easy to see that there's a grain to the fiber that runs vertically. For the first step, I want to divide this pile of fiber into 5 thin strips. If your fiber isn't pre-measured, just pull off a chunk of roving that's about 10 inches long and divide it into some thin strips. I want to make sure to save some roving for the flippers, so I'm going to take one of my strips and hide it for now. I'll just put it aside and use it later. I start rolling up the body by taking one strip and gently rolling it into a ball. I want to kind of tuck the ball into the tail as I'm rolling it, and I also want to rotate it as I go. I'll continue with the other strips of fiber, tightly wrapping them around the ball as my shape gets bigger. Size-wise, the goal here is about the size of a chicken egg, so if yours starts getting really huge, it's probably time to stop. To felt the wool, I repeatedly stab the felting needle into it. The felting needle has little barbs on it, and when you stab it into the wool, the fibers get matted together. You can see the fibers starting to get matted together. The more I stab it with the felting needle, the smoother the shape becomes. You can also roll the ball in your hands to smooth out the texture. But how do I tell that my ball is ready for the next step? Well, when I compare my ball to the penguin, I can see that the texture of the outside is kind of loose and fluffy still compared to the dense, velvety surface of the densely felted penguin. So I'm going to keep felting it with my felting needle to make it more tight and smooth. My ball is getting pretty felted. As I stab the needle into it, I can feel that it's getting pretty dense. Also, when I hold it up to the penguin, I can see that it has shrank quite a bit. Now, I still want to smooth out the texture of the outside a little bit. So to smooth out the texture, I'll use the felting needle with shallow little stabs all over the outside to get it more dense. Now I'll make the flippers. The first thing I do is tug the fiber apart a little bit and notice the grain that the fiber has to it. I'll pull off a thin piece and lay it horizontally on my blue foam base. Then I'll pull off some very short pieces that have the fiber going vertically, and I'll lay it down on my blue foam base. Then I'll take the horizontal piece and put it at the bottom of the vertical pile and start to roll it up. I'm trying to roll up a tight little log. Sometimes as I'm rolling, I'll use my felting needle to anchor the fibers so that I can roll up the log as tightly as I can. To felt my log, I start felting it from one end down to the other. When I get to the end, I'll stop and peel the log off of the blue foam. I rotate it a little bit and then lay it back on the foam and repeat. I keep doing this so that the log gets evenly felted. Felting the log is so much work. If you're getting fatigued, I recommend eating a square of chocolate. As a final step, I always like to go over the surface of the felt with shallow pokes. I'm stabbing the felting needle in, but the end of the felting needle isn't poking out through the other side. So as I bury the needle into the wool, the texture of the outside really smooths out. Now I do a final roll with my hands and cut the log into pieces to become the flippers. I'm cutting 2 pieces that are each 1 inch long. To make the little hand cute and round, I use the felting needle on the end. Sometimes I'll use scissors to snip the little fuzzies too. When I'm attaching the arm to the side of the penguin body, I like to cut the arm at an angle so that it conforms nicely to the egg shape. To attach it with the felting needle, I hold the arm on with one hand and with the other hand use the felting needle to stab through the arm material and into the egg-shaped body. So I sort of start going over the shoulder, and then I'll turn the egg sort of upside down so that I can also felt in the armpit area. Be liberal with your stabbing, you want it to be attached really well. Alright, it's time to turn this egg with arms into a penguin. I'll pull off a little piece of black carded wool and stretch open the fibers lengthwise and also widthwise. Then I'll take the black fiber and lay it down on the penguin body. I want the black to lay right over the top of the shoulders of the penguin. I like to hold the black fiber tight against the body as I'm felting it on. I can use as many pieces as I need to fill in the black and make it solid. I want to even out the black edge. I can take a little wisp of fiber, roll it in my fingertips, and then felt it right on to make the edge more crisp all the way around. My favorite way to felt on the mask is to use a pre-felt. If you have white pre-felt, you can cut it to size and felt it on very easily. If you don't have pre-felt material, you can use white carded wool. It will just take you a little bit more time to make the edges neat. Attaching the mask is super simple. Just stab the felting needle straight through the pre-felt into the black area of the penguin. Once you have it nicely attached, go around the edges to make them neat. To make teeny little black eyeballs, I pull off a very tiny pinch of black fiber. You can see how little fiber there is there. Then I take that tiny amount and wad it up in my fingertips. Now pick out a beak color. Pull off a little piece of the carded wool and roll it up in your fingertips. Rest it on the blue foam and stab it and rotate it until it clings together in a little log shape. I've positioned the beak onto the white mask. To attach it, I stab the felting needle through the base of the beak deep into the penguin. Use a deep stabbing motion all the way around the base of the beak to make it firmly attached. My penguin is complete. When I compare it to the original penguin, I can see that it turned out a little fatter. That means that I used more fiber when I rolled up the egg in the beginning. If I want to make it smaller next time, when I'm rolling up the egg, I'll use less fiber. I'm going to add an acorn cap to the head of my penguin to make it look like a little beret. My acorn cap has a hole drilled in the top. I took a piece of string and folded it in half. Then I'll thread both ends from the top of the cap to the underside. Then I use an overhand knot to tie it to secure the string. Snip the threads and then squeeze some glue inside of the cap. Here I'm using tacky glue, but Elmer's glue or hot glue would also work.